All right, I think we're recording. Hey, everybody. Sorry, I'm a little tired, a little drunk, not too terribly, but yeah, from a Christmas party Kate and I went to. So I wanted to get this out because we have some important stuff to talk about. But yeah, hope everyone's had a great week. It was a pretty wild week, especially some like crazy offensive or lack thereof performances. But we'll get right into it. It's late. I know y'all are dying for this to come out, waiting on bated breath. But yeah, um, so we'll start with losers first. Get that mess out of the way. Yeah, but what's crazy, losers were the offensive powerhouses this week and pretty much would have won every game, just about. Um, 12th seeded Steve, high score of the week at 154 points, and beat Brennan, who ironically is the second high score of the week. So that's kind of Nick now on the Sacco chopping block along with Brennan. But our favorite Sacco, Colin Varner, getting the loss to Will and scoring the least amount of points doing so. So, Colin, going for the repeat thus far, but you have 2 more weeks to go. We shall see. Set those lineups. You don't want to be your butt. You don't want to be on the line. So, let's jump up to the meat and the controversy, and we'll talk about it. And hopefully, it's going to suck. Someone's going to be pissed off. It has to be somebody. We'll get to that in a second. So, Matthew and I had an interesting game. Don't let the score deceive you because it was painstakingly close. Good Lord, was it close. Um, Going into Monday night, it was, I think Matthew had 1 point on me, like 1.5, 2 points. And I had cut Kirk Cousins and Adam Thielen, and I'm like, hey, like that's a high-powered combo. This should be an easy walk. And lo and behold, by the fourth quarter, Matthew and I were like tied. For those who didn't watch the game last night, the Vikings had a historically low, like career low numbers for every offensive weapon you could name on the Vikings, which it was so bad that the Vikings have parted ways with their offensive coordinator as of earlier today. The only reason Cousins and Adam Thielen got a touchdown in complete garbage time. Seattle was in a complete screw it mode, like didn't care, basically let him walk down the field and score. So garbage. That is not going to cut it next week when I square off with BMO, but I am still alive. So, I'm rocking the boat. But sorry, anyway, so let's get into the craziness that was Chris and Matt. I had to look into this carefully. If any of you stalked my Reddit profile, I polled them, and Reddit in true form, especially the fantasy football sub, called me a quote fucking retard. Well, I'll put it this way. So 10 people explained it to me in a nice way. One person messaged me like 5 times calling me a fucking retard, and then I should go die in a fire. So stay classy, Reddit. That's awesome. But yeah, so Matt and Chris was a crazy game. It was back and forth offensive game. Looking at two, well, Chicago's not super offense, but looking at played like crap. And the score showed for that. So basically, what was going on was uh, Matt was trying to hang on. He had Todd Gurley and Allen Robinson for Chicago, and Chris had Brandon Cooks. And what we were left with is a 127.1 score for Matt and a 126.4 for Chris. So 0.7 difference. And what happened was, and we won't get into the shoulda, coulda, wouldas because several passes went to Allen Robinson. Gurley could have gotten the ball more. Also, Brandon Cooks was thrown to a hell of a lot, relatively speaking. Didn't get it. So, regardless, come Monday mornings, this game was Sunday night, we had a score of 127 to 1 to 126.4. No disrespect to Matt, but Chris, that's really close, and we're playing for money. So Chris did some investigative journalism on the scoring, and it looked like Matt's defense, the Lions, were credited 2 points for allowing 200 to 299 yards. And Chris sent me a box score sheet of the Lions yielding 301 yards. So basically, I was really struggling. So obviously, that's, any other game this season that's not this close, that doesn't matter. But of course, it's a playoff game and it's a less than 1 point differential. Like, someone's going to be pissed. So basically, what I did for transparency here, I go in, and the app for me showed that it was 301 yards. So I even pulled y'all. I kind of like stealth pulled it, and that's what it was. So Matt's team, on first glance, Matt's team gives up, like the defense yields more than 299 yards. So it doesn't fit into the 2 point category. Now, I looked into the scoring of our league rules, and and then the next step up is 350 yards to 450 yards, either 400 or 450 yards. It's minus 1 point. Now, there's a gap, obviously, between 300 and 349 yards, which I learned is just assumed a 0. So now I'm sitting here looking at Matt's defense. Should not be credited those 2 points. And then that would lead a victory to Chris for 126.4 to 125.1. So that was in play. Now, what I learned, first things first, that scoring gap will be closed up next year just to avoid any confusion, whether it'll be close that gap between the 299 and the 300 to 400, whatever, or 300 and 350 will be explicitly called out as 0 points. So either way, we'll fix it. I'll fix it. I'm not going to fix it now, obviously, but anyway. So what the final ruling on this, so I learned that the ESPN Fantasy app is flawed in a nice way, and what it does not include sacks in the total yards of the quarterback. And then for whatever reason, you have to go to the website or NFL.com or what have you, where that true box score is incorporated. So what happened is that Arizona's total yards against the Vikings were 301. If you account for a handful of sacks, Josh Rosen lost 22 yards, causing Lions defense to allow in between the 200 and the 299, correctly crediting Matt the 2 points. So the score is correct, and therefore it stays. I'm sorry, Chris. That's a kind of a shitty way to do it. The scoring's right, and like no shade to Matt, but that app presenting the yardage that way and basically showing the yardage one way and scoring it differently, and you have to kind of go into the subtext to find that true yards and how it's scored is kind of crappy. Because you found that, and obviously you had a pretty steady case. But there it is. Got to do a congrats to Matt. That was an incredibly close game. I hate that it had to come down to some nuance to do that. I wish one of y'all would have just blown each other out by like 20, 30 points so we don't have this issue. But there it is. So the scoring is going to stay. Matt is going to advance to face off with B-Wade. I will face off with Bebo next week. And Chris and Matthew will be squaring off in the winners consolation bracket. So at least none of y'all are fighting for Sacco. Silver lining. So yeah, I just wanted to be kind of transparent with that. It's shitty, but just for everyone to know, if you're against like a defensive scoring thing, you gotta dig a little bit, or like actually go to ESPN's website to dig out a true total yards and how it's actually scored, because it is not forward. It's a crappy way of doing that. It's out of my hands, but ultimately it was scored correctly, going by the true scoring on it. So there it is. If you have a problem with that or how I did it, please let me know. Just trying to be transparent for everybody in case it happens to someone else in the future. So, like I mentioned a second ago, we're going to the second week of the playoffs here. BMO and I square off. BMO and B-Wade with their respective bye weeks. It was tough, but they made it through. B-Wade will go against Matt. That will be a close game. Matthew and Chris will square off in the winners consolation bracket. Riley and Will are squaring off. That'll be a good one. Nick and Steve. Steve with a win here would cement himself as not Sacco, which is crazy. And then Colin and Brennan. That might be setting up a Sacco favorite, the loser of that game. So I wish everyone well. I'm getting ready to go pack for Mr. Jones's wedding, because that is sneaking right up my butt as time melts away. And yeah, that's all I got this week. Again, I know that's kind of drama, kind of a little more serious than we like to have it. But there it is. There's the ruling on it. Everything stands. Please let me know questions, comments, concerns, and I'll address them accordingly. Other than that, hope you'll have a great week. Thanks.